This one for sure. Ah, gross.
You have chosen poorly.
Well, I guess I'll just choose it.
Whoa. No, you're not going to waste that. You're going to finish that one first.
All right, fine. How bad can it be? Ah.
Keep going.
Ah. Welcome back to the Out of Touch podcast. I'm Chris, that's Bill, and today we are watching Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, the third Indiana Jones movie. So, Bill, what did you think of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade?
It's my favorite Indiana Jones movie. It's probably the first one I saw in its entirety, but that might have been Temple of Doom. But I love this movie. It's my absolute favorite in the entire series.
It's pretty good. This is my first time seeing the whole thing. I have seen most of this movie before, but I've never seen the very beginning of this movie. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, why the hell does Indiana Jones look so weird in this movie? And then I realized the little kid is Indiana Jones.
You didn't expect that, huh?
No.
You didn't expect Indiana Jones's origin story.
Yeah.
They put an entire solo, a Star Wars story worth of material in 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I was kind of like, oh, so that's how he got his hat. He stole it from, or that guy gave it to him.
Yes, that not Indiana Jones. I call him Oklahoma Jake.
Oklahoma Jake.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, he looked more like that Lego character that came with the Mummy sets. I forgot his name.
So do I.
Yeah, but it was pretty cool, the movie.
Is it weird, though, that with that prologue, that I'm more okay with a 5-minute prologue where, okay, we see Indiana Jones use a whip for the first time, get his little lip scar, develop a phobia of snakes, and get his hat. But if you put all of that in an origin movie, I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
Like they did with Han Solo.
Solo.
Yeah. I mean, it's short, it's sweet.
It does happen so quickly that you're like, oh, but then you're just like, boom, with adult Indiana Jones getting punched in the face.
Yeah. It's pretty good. Like, I was just surprised to see, like, young Indiana Jones, but I guess, was that because of the TV show back then?
I mean, maybe it was in the back of their minds of something that they wanted to do.
Okay. But anyway, I guess, the quick synopsis of this movie is Indiana Jones has to find the Holy Grail because his dad has been obsessed with the Holy Grail for a very long time, and he got captured.
By the Nazis.
Yes. We don't know that just yet, I think, or do we know that right off the bat?
We don't know right away, I think. I think once they go to that castle, it's like, oh, crap, it's the Nazis again.
I mean, like, it was kind of, like, predictable when, like, the one lady shows up and she's like, I'm Dr. Schneider. And I'm like, she a damn Nazi.
I mean, a little bit.
Yeah.
It never happened in the other two movies where the sort of love interest girl turned out to be a traitor.
Yeah.
But I do love the bluntness, because Sean Connery is great in this movie, where he's just like, she's a Nazi, she's one of them. Right away just knows.
Yeah.
Because of the super awkward, they both banged her.
Yeah, that is a weird, like, thing in this movie where it's just like, yeah, we both slept with the same lady. And that lady knew the whole time they were father and son. And she's like, I'm going to do this anyway.
She's a Nazi. She did whatever she could to get the Grail.
Yeah. It's interesting because Indiana Jones' father, played by Sean Connery.
Which is like a nice tribute to the fact that this is all because Steven Spielberg wanted to do James Bond. So who's better to be Indiana Jones' dad than the original James Bond?
Yeah. It's kind of like an interesting dynamic they have because, you know, the movie pretty much like says like, yeah, he wasn't like the greatest father. He kind of was more or less wrapped up in his own like stuff, pursuing this Holy Grail, and kind of like left Indy to do whatever he wanted. There's like a exchange where, you know, he like kind of was like, oh, it was a good thing I let you do what you wanted. You became self-reliant, and it's just like you didn't even care about me. You just wanted to, look for your stupid cup or whatever.
They start the movie with that. You're pretty standard fractured relationship that gets stronger by the end.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. Also Indiana Jones, he's actually not named Indiana.
Nope. Henry Jones Jr.
Yeah, which is interesting, especially when Sean Connery's like Junior. I'm like, huh, Junior? That's weird.
I love Salah's reaction to it.
Yeah.
Just laughs at it.
The very end. I guess like going through the movie though, I guess the movie begins more or less in Venice, because at the college first.
Obviously we have after the prologue, Indiana Jones is finishing up a different quest to get the same cross he was pursuing as a kid on a boat that, through just sheer happenstance, blows up. But he manages to survive because that's just kind of what Indiana Jones does.
Yeah.
And then he goes back to the college, and then he gets reached out by this definitely not shady guy, Donovan.
Yeah.
Absolutely, totally trustworthy. Definitely can trust this guy.
Very on the up and up.
Absolutely. Definitely on the up and up. About getting and finding the Holy Grail, because they found a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
That leads to another piece that will probably actually lead to the Holy Grail. And it turns out it's like, well, you should have talked to my dad. I did. Your dad's disappeared. So Indiana Jones, at least initially, he's not really on a quest for the Holy Grail. He's going for his dad.
Yeah, he's trying to save his father from whatever happened. This, I know everything rips off Indiana Jones.
Yes.
But my God, Uncharted ripped off so much from this movie. Like the little book. I was like, are you kidding me? Even that is from Indiana Jones. Like the little hint book that tells you how to solve the puzzles in the game is from this goddamn movie. I was like, unbelievable.
Yeah.
Just seeing the sheer amount of things that have ripped off Indiana Jones over the years, I'm just like, man,
Shamelessly.
maybe it's not that hard to make a thing. If you could just rip off stuff so easily.
Yes, because that's what they did.
I know, but it just blew my mind. Like from like going into like the Holy Grail, that place in Venice at the beginning with the little numbers on the walls and him solving the clues using the journal. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. It's like, this is what Uncharted copied. Like, exactly.
Duh!
I know, but
Everything. Everything.
It just blows my mind.
The only thing that Uncharted did that was original was he climbs a lot of rocks.
Yeah. But there is some climbing in this movie. Not a lot, but
True.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the whole thing with cracking open the floor, finding the secret passage, looking in the book to see what to do next. I was like, I've played this game.
Just like, man, between that and Donkey Kong Country and the mine carts, you must be just like, you're looking at all the video games you've loved over the years and being like, I don't know you anymore.
All the creators of my childhood are hacks.
Yes. I don't know if you know this, but a lot of video games are just rip-offs of movies.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Did you know that the Grand Theft Auto games ripped off a lot of movies?
I can imagine. But it was just mind-blowing to see that. But, anywho, I like the way Sean Connery looks in this movie. It's kind of weird. He's got, like, his proper research professor suit with his, like, little bow tie and his round glasses, and then his weird, like, fishing hat thing going on.
This is like one of the few movies where Sean Connery is like, all right, this is what I look like. I got no hair.
Yeah. It's also interesting because, like, he's not really, like, a badass in this movie. He's just, like, a, like, bookworm type guy.
He's playing against type, I think.
Yeah.
And trying to play much older than he actually was, because he was only 12 years older than Harrison Ford.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, it's a bit of a stretch that they're father and son.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that. I was just like, man, like, how old is Sean Connery? Because, like, he passed away too long ago.
Yeah, he was 90, I think, when he passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why he went without the weight, to, I guess, just help him seem older.
Yeah.
And they kind of make him seem like he's a little older. He can't really participate in the fights.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think Sean Connery just doing something a little different, and it's fun.
I just love the scene where I think like Indy first like I can't remember, but there's a scene. I can't remember if it's like at the beginning where they first meet each other. I think it is when like he's in that room. Indy comes in to save him through the window.
Yes.
And then immediately murders a bunch of people.
Well, first his dad clocks him in the skull. He's like, "Oh, sorry, son. I thought you were one of them." It's like, they come in the door, Dad.
Yeah.
And yeah, they burst in, and then they're arguing, and then he grabs the gun and just shoots all the Nazis.
Yeah.
And Sean Connery,
Shocked.
he's never seen what his son actually does.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh my God."
Yeah.
Like he's aware.
Junior.
Like I guess he's aware of like what his son does, but just seeing it firsthand is just completely different.
Yeah.
It's like, you're flying planes, knocking people out of things, shooting them dead. But you know what? They were Nazis. They probably deserved it. I mean, they definitely deserved it.
It is weird that Indiana Jones is not too far removed from like the people that he's fighting usually. It's like the only difference is he gives his stuff for like to the museum, but like he's still like grave robbing and murdering people too.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Like Indiana Jones' main motivation is, at least initially, save his dad.
Yeah.
And in dialogue we find out that like the dad's motivation for finding the Grail is also just I think it was like there was like a spiritual element of it, of just like finding this like thing. But also at this point it's like, we have to stop them from getting it.
Yeah.
We need to stop the Nazis from getting the Holy Grail.
Right. It's weird because like it says like, you know, if you get the Grail, you can like live forever if you drink out of it.
Yes.
Which I don't know if that's like actually like the legend around the Holy Grail, but you know,
It's
religious artifact with undefined powers.
It's one of those stories that has been added, more and more stuff has been added to it for centuries.
Yeah.
I always enjoyed that along for the ride they decided to bring in, what's his name? Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name.
Sala.
No, not Sala. But yeah, obviously he's great.
Marcus.
No, yeah, Marcus.
Yeah.
It was fun that they brought him for the ride. And they reconvene with Sala. I like that. I like those characters. I like that they're on the adventure too.
Yeah. It's interesting, that guy Marcus, he's kind of like your stereotypical bumbling professor guy.
Way more bumbling than he came off in the first movie.
Yeah.
But he's out of his element. He's not a field guy.
No.
He's a curator.
Yeah. It's interesting, like, the escalation of the Nazis where it's like, yeah, we're looking for the Holy Grail. We're going to bring a bunch of tanks.
Well, they're given the tanks by some guy.
Are they? I just thought they had them.
No, because to get permission to go to that land, they visit, like, the ruler of the land. They offer him treasure, but then he was like, I like your car.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, you can have the car. And he's like, great. You'll have tanks and men and all sorts of crap.
Oh, okay.
Because he just wanted a really nice car.
Yeah.
So I just got to get this swastika off of there.
Yeah. It's weird. Because you think, like, the Germans would have had their own tanks. But
I think they were still at a point where they weren't, like, just going to roll tanks into just every country.
Okay. Yeah. It's weird.
It is one of those things where if they were just rolling it in a tank, I think audiences would have just went like, yeah,
whatever.
They would just go with it.
Yeah, it's weird. I wish I didn't watch this movie in two, like, parts, because I probably would have remembered things better, but I'm kind of, like, almost remembering it as, like, two separate things, but, because I'm, like, thinking, like, well, they go to Egypt, they meet Sala, the guy Marcus has pieces of the book that has all the answers on...
The map. He's got, like, a map.
Yeah, to find the Grail.
Yeah.
Which, you know, there's a lot of, like, cryptic clues and stuff to get to where the Grail actually is, and some things you have to do to prove that you're worthy to get the Grail.
I do like the 3 challenges that they have to do once they're actually at the Grail Temple. But
Yeah.
we'll get to that in a minute, because lots of adventure beforehand.
Yeah, you know, like, we're jumping around a lot, but...
So, after Indiana Jones rescues his dad, I love the little fake out that Indy pulls with the boat. Much to his dad's confusion. We're not taking the boat? What's
Yeah.
happening here? They escape on the motorcycle, but he's like, we got to get to Berlin. We got to get my book. There's more stuff in the book that I don't remember because I didn't think I'd have to because I wrote it in my book.
Yeah.
And Indiana Jones has a close call with Hitler for some reason.
That is so weird when he signs the book and then gives it to him.
Yeah.
Also, I do like before that happens, the scene where they're in the castle and they're tied up, and then, he tells the dad, like, hey, like, I have a lighter in my pocket, like, try to, burn the ropes off, and he just, like, immediately drops the lighter and then starts, like, a giant fire.
Yeah, he burns himself.
Yeah. And then they kind of, like, go into that fireplace that turns around into, like, a Nazi, like, communication hub for a while, and they don't get noticed immediately.
The one lady does. She just starts screaming.
Yeah. That was fun. That was, like, very, like, adventure movie type thing.
Oh, yeah. Then after they get the book, they escape on a Zeppelin.
Yeah.
That leads to one of my favorite little moments when, like, the guys come and showing their picture to everybody, but then he finds Sean Connery, and then Indiana Jones, dressed like one of the ticket takers, beats the crap out of them, throws him out the window, and everybody looks at him. He's just like, no ticket.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Yep.
I also like when they're on the Zeppelin and, they have to escape in that little plane, and the dad is just so not good, and he's just like 11 o'clock, and he like takes out his watch, and he's just like, no, I mean, and he's like 10, 11, like he's just like pointing.
And then he shoots the freaking tail by
Yeah.
accident, and he doesn't admit to it.
I know. It's like, did we get hit? Yeah.
I'm sorry, son, they got us.
Yeah. It's just so funny.
He makes up for it when he pulls that little stunt with the birds.
Yeah, it's true, with his
Man,
like umbrella.
Yeah. Yeah, those fucking old planes, man, they're fragile as fuck.
Yeah, I guess so, I mean, I guess a lot of them too, like that metal is like so paper thin, it always seems like in the movies, and I'm like, I wonder if it was really like that, but...
There's that other moment, like right before that, when they're driving through the tunnel and the plane crashes in it, and it kind of like drives past them, and then they just like, look at the pilot, and the pilot's like, what the hell?
That was weird, but also like hilarious, because it's just like, it just goes right past him and then explodes. And it's just like, that guy is just like, I guess I'm gonna die now. See ya.
There's nothing he can do.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, this is not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, follows him into the tunnel.
Like, what the hell were you thinking?
I mean, Steven Spielberg definitely knows how to like escalate these like chase scenes where it just like keeps getting more and more as it goes on. I guess like that probably leads into the parts with the tanks and stuff when they're
The scene with the tank that's just nuts in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
People getting run over.
Yeah.
And there's that one moment where like Indiana Jones is like clinging to like a barrel of like a gun. He's only like inches above the ground, but it's just like he's in this like tight space, and it's just like, geez, one false move and he's just paced.
Yeah. The tank was pretty extreme. Like it's funny. It has like the side guns too, and
Yeah.
he puts the rock in the gun, and it like of course blows up like in the way you would expect, with like the barrel being peeled out and everything, and you're like, yep, that's how it happens. I do like how that scene goes on and the way it ends with like Indy and the, I guess, main Nazi bad guy going over the cliff.
Yeah.
And then like them thinking Indiana Jones is dead, and he just like walks up behind him.
Well, he
and,
climbs up and then he
Yeah.
walks up behind him, like looks down, it's just like, huh.
Yeah. It's a pretty good moment.
Dad gives him a big hug and is like, come on, let's go. What are you doing? Let's get up. Let's go.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he's so exhausted. He's just like, oh, God. And I love that great little moment because like his hat went flying a little earlier. And then I just like to imagine it was just Steven Spielberg off camera, just chucks the hat at him.
Yeah. It's like the hat comes back to him.
Yeah, I love that.
It's pretty good. I guess it leads up to like where they go into like the main area where the Grail is, where, it's the temple that's like carved into the side of the wall, which I think there is
That's a real place.
Yeah.
They used a real place for the exterior of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say like they probably didn't film in there.
No,
but,
they were filming on a set.
Yeah.
Obviously.
So I was like, hey, I've seen that temple in pictures before.
Yeah, that was a real place. I've seen it in other movies before too, I think. But
yeah, it's a really cool thing.
yeah, and I like that they keep they've been sending people in, and they've just been getting just viscerated by something.
Yeah.
Like you don't. It's almost played mystically at first, but then we find out they're just blades.
Yeah.
And they be like, "You go, Dr. Jones." He's like, "No, fuck you. I'm not gonna go." And then they shoot his dad. It's like, "Go on, go. You need the Grail to save your dad, dickhead."
Yeah. It's pretty much like, if you don't do it, he'll die, and then.
The penitent man kneels before God, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta duck, but then I also have to roll because there's just another plate that pops out of the floor."
Yeah.
What does that have to do with kneeling?
It's like, how do those blades even work? Magic?
I do like though that the leap of faith is an optical illusion.
That is a really cool scene.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even know, like, in some ways, like, how that was, like, pulled off. Like,
Perspective.
yeah, I guess so.
We even see it. Like the camera moves, showing see, and then
Yeah.
it moves back.
It's really cool when, like, he gets past that part and he throws, like, the sand on the bridge. Too.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, whoa.
And then he gets there and he finds one of the Crusader knights that went there.
Yeah.
'Cause we are told this story about 3 went, 2 came back, but 1 died along the way, and then 1 died in France 150 years after they initially left.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, the one guy, he's just been in there for, like, I guess, like, 1,000 years
I
guarding
think
it.
they said like 700 years.
Right.
And he's ready to pass the baton on to somebody else. It's like, you look strange for a knight. And Indiana Jones is like, I don't have time for this.
It is interesting. It's just like, man, what did that guy do in there for 700 years?
We see him reading a manuscript, but
Yeah.
I can't imagine how long it was.
I guess, like, the Grail makes you live forever. You possibly don't even need to eat.
I guess not.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he left his post.
No, he's dedicated
Yeah.
to guarding the Grail because it has.
He was very pale.
Yeah. I also like how there's, the other organization that was kind of like protecting the Grail, sort of. Like
Yeah, that order of people. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot what they're called.
I forget. I can't remember their names either, but I do like that once the kind of the main one we learn the name of, who talks to Indiana Jones. Like he finds out that Indiana Jones, he doesn't want the Grail. He just wants to save his dad, and he's like, oh, I wish you luck then. Your dad's being held here by the Nazis or whatever.
Yeah.
And they show up again, but they fail to stop the Nazis, but that's fine. Nazi greed gets them in the end anyway.
Yeah.
I love that they go in the Grail chamber. There's just like 30 beautiful, decadent gold cups, and Elsa hands the most jewel-encrusted one to Donovan. He's like, yes, the cup of the King of Kings. And he drinks the water, and he's just like, ah!
Yeah.
And then Indiana Jones goes, and he finds a plain, old, simple wooden cup, and it's just like this. This is the cup of a carpenter.
It's like the Family Guy. It's like, the mug that says Jesus. It's like, how did you know? But, yeah. It is interesting. They give some, like, historical context for it, too, where it's just like, yeah, I wouldn't be all this ornate.
No, because it was just supposed to be a cup that they had at a supper.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be anything. It couldn't be anything elaborate.
Exactly.
The idea of it being a decadent goblet is insane.
Yeah.
That guy was an idiot.
It's interesting, too, because they kind of put some conditions to immortality. They're kind of just like, hey, like, you're immortal, but if you cross the seal...
Well, you
then...
you can't take the Grail past the seal.
Okay. Does that mean Indiana Jones is immortal?
I think this to be immortal, you have to keep drinking from it.
Oh, okay.
That was how I took it.
Okay. So
I could be wrong, but that's how I took it.
So you'd have to, like, go back to that cave every day and then, like, take a sip and then...
like every couple of weeks.
Every couple of weeks.
You don't want to get too old.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Eventually. But,
I don't know. That was always my interpretation of it. I know a lot of people were just like, why does Dad die in part 4? He should be immortal. It's just like, don't think that's how it was meant to work, guys.
Yeah.
And, Elsa, even despite hearing the knight's warning, goes right past the seal, and everything just starts breaking apart.
Yeah, there's kind of like a weird aspect to the Holy Grail I noticed where, Elsa's like trying to get it when she brings it past the...
But she's like, I can reach it.
Yeah.
I can reach it.
It's like almost kind of like a Lord of the Rings thing where like the Ring of Power kind of like makes you addicted to it, because even Indiana Jones is like trying to get it at one point.
Because he's like, I'm closer, I can reach it.
Yeah,
But his dad is able to talk him down.
Yeah, it's almost like you're like drawn to it for a weird reason.
Yeah.
But like never really said in the movie, but it is kind of like a weird thing.
I mean, it is like, it represents so many things, like fortune, glory, possible immortality.
Yeah.
And just like, the symbolic power alone would entice someone who would was a jerk who sided with the Nazis.
Yeah.
Then, she got what she deserved, and Indiana Jones got what he deserved.
Yeah.
A hug from his dad.
Yeah.
And his dad called him Indiana.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
And then, the very end where they just ride into the sunset.
I love that. Like, I can understand why some people probably didn't want another Indiana Jones movie after this, because, like, one, it's called The Last Crusade. That has a sense of finality to it. But also, these movies, they're tributes to old adventure films.
Yeah.
And there's no classicer way to end your adventure story than have all your heroes ride off into the sunset.
Yeah. It's weird that there is like a part 4 that was made like 20 years later.
And now there's going to be a part 5 next year?
Something.
I don't know.
It's going to be in the 70s. It's going to be weird.
I'll say.
There's going to be disco music in there.
God, I hope not. It's bad enough I've heard the disco version of the Star Wars theme.
Man.
Could you imagine the disco version of the Indiana Jones theme?
I really can't, but I'm sure it does exist.
I hope not.
Somebody's just like, I'm going to disco-fy every movie soundtrack.
Good Lord.
But, yeah, overall, I liked it a lot. I'm not sure if it's my favorite. I really like the first one still.
I mean, I really like the first one too, but I always loved the dynamic between Indiana Jones and his dad.
Yeah.
That to me is like the highlight of the movie.
It is pretty cool. And Sean Connery, it's like, one of those like legendary actors and so many things. And it's like, hey, he's in like this movie. That's crazy.
James Bond is Indiana Jones's dad.
Yeah. It's a cool thing. I wish Sala had a little bit more to do in this movie.
Yeah.
I like Sala a lot.
I do too.
He's cool. But yeah, overall, it's pretty fun. It's shocking that there is a part 4, and maybe one day we'll talk about part 4.
Probably.
That's the only one before I actually watched all these movies, that's the only one I've seen in its entirety.
That still strikes me as weird.
Because I saw it in theaters.
I saw it in theaters too, but I'd still seen the other 3 in their entirety multiple times before that.
Yeah. I've seen parts of this one like more than any of the other ones, so...
It's definitely the one I've probably seen the most, because it was definitely the one I saw in its entirety that I can remember seeing in its entirety the first time.
Yeah.
Like, I know I had seen Temple of Doom before that, but it was a little hazy because I was a little younger.
It seems like this one is a little bit more toned down with the violence compared to the other two.
Well, considering the reception of Temple of Doom,
Yeah.
and, Steven Spielberg was probably in a happy relationship at this point. Everyone was kind of calmer, chiller, more relaxed. So they went for more of the fun adventure tone as opposed to the, I'm going to rip your fucking heart out.
Yeah, I mean, Temple of Doom is definitely its own thing, but like that first Indiana Jones movie is like pretty damn violent, and it seemed really tame compared to the other two.
I guess compared to them, but it still has its moments of violence. I mean, you get that one guy that gets like shot in the head by ricochet, blood just starts pouring out of him, and how Donovan dies, that's not horrifying at all.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it's no face melt, but still.
I mean, it's horrifying, but it's not as like gruesome as.
I mean, yeah, their faces were melting.
Yeah, I mean, he just kind of like turns into like a silly like Crypt Keeper puppet for a while.
And then he's like a mummy.
Yeah, just like dries up. Yeah, I don't know. Like all 3 are really good. Well, Temple of Doom is like a different movie. It's not a bad movie, but it's just like a weird movie.
It's like these Last Crusade and Raiders.
They
quests
fit together. Yeah.
They're quest movies. Temple of Doom isn't a quest. It's an adventure, but it's not a quest.
Yeah.
Those other two movies are quests. Even Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is a quest.
Right.
So that makes Temple of Doom stick out even more, because it's like all these other movies, they're quests and adventures. This one's just a crazy adventure.
Yeah, it's almost like an escape movie in a weird way too. 'Cause
Yeah, kind of.
They get captured.
Yeah, they have to
everything.
escape the Temple of Doom.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what else I could really say about this. It's pretty good. Everybody already knows that.
Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
It was the final Indiana Jones movie until they decided it wasn't.
For a good long while. I mean, it's not the most egregious because, like, yeah, they ride off into the sunset, but you know, clearly Indiana Jones was gonna go on more adventures.
Yeah.
And has probably gone on way more adventures that we didn't get to see in between those two movies.
In Crystal Skull, they mentioned some of the adventures he had, and it's like kind of like maybe you should have made a movie about that.
I know at least one adventure they reference is actually a reference to young Indiana Jones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they actually reference one specific episode.
Interesting. But I guess that's Out of Touch podcast for this week. Never saw Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade? Go watch it.
Don't be like this guy. Actually watch the Indiana Jones movies.
Take that hat off. You look ridiculous.
Your face is ridiculous.
Oh, man. So hurtful. Is that enough?
No! That bottle is not empty. You're not getting this until you finish that.